Thanks for checking out the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Zamperin. We're 7 months away from the next municipal election in Hamilton, and the race for the mayor's seat is quickly heating up. One candidate that recently tossed their hat into the ring after falling short in the 2022 mayoral election is our guest today. Welcome, Keanin Loomis. Keanin, how are you? I'm
doing well. Thank you, Rick.
You're back.
I am back, yeah.
Why?
Well, I'm running for mayor because I believe in the city, and I believe that Hamilton deserves better leadership to match the incredible potential of this city, and Hamilton deserves better, for sure. If we look at what's happening over the last few years, not much has changed. In fact, it's only gotten worse since running in 2022, and I'm hearing that all over the place, and obviously I can see with my own eyes. I live here in the city. I haven't gone anywhere, but things are quite dispiriting at this moment for Hamilton. And obviously, part of a lot of stuff happening globally as well that causes a lot of anxiety. But I think the one thing that people in Hamilton want is to at least believe in their own community and the future of their community and the future of their children in this community as well. And we don't even have that.
I don't want to relitigate the 2022 election, but when you think back at that time, what went wrong?
Well, I don't know if there was anything specifically that went wrong. I think, we had a lot of ground to catch up when it came to name recognition. And so despite the fact that, I had been the voice of business in Hamilton for 9 years, and people who, you think of your typical, spec readers or listeners to CHML RIP, they knew who I was because I was the voice of the business community for a really long time. But when you go out and knock on doors, and when you go to, the Winona Peach Festival or the Dundas Cactus Festival or what have you, there's a lot of people there that want to get to know you and understand who you are and your motivations for running, your pedigree as well. And so that was just something that was, very difficult when you running against somebody who has universal name recognition, for good or for bad, right? That was a major gap. That counts for a lot in politics, particularly in municipal politics. So I wouldn't say that anything went wrong. I would say that we ran out of time. All analysis shows that if we had one more week in the race, we would have won, and things would be very different right now. I'd be running for re-election, but it didn't happen, and that's fine. I learned a lot. Obviously, it was what I took away from it more than anything was just how enjoyable the process was, and meeting with people and all that. And people who know me well know that I'm an introvert, and so part of it was, can I actually do this over the course of this sustained period and in a way that doesn't completely drain me. But the other aspect of my personality is I really, really thrive on human connection. And there were thousands of incredible human connections that were made over the course of that campaign. So it was a great experience. I would say that obviously, I would be a different and better candidate this time around. So that would be one major change to last time, and I'm equally as looking forward to the upcoming adventure as I did last time around.
How will the city of Hamilton be better served with you as mayor?
Well, I think, again, this city is not getting the leadership it deserves. And so, one thing that people who know me know well is that I step into, leadership opportunities, and that has become my vocation, is leader. I was a lawyer in a previous life, was able to take a lot of those foundational skills and turn them into, being a leader and an advocate, and my specialty really being organizational management, and in particular association management, having run the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, been a VP at the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and now running the Canadian Institute of Steel Construction. There's a particular skill set that's required for association management in particular, and I think that equates really well to what is required in terms of the mayor. What a mayor has to do, and again an association manager has to do, is balance all of the disparate interests that are within your association. So if you look at what I'm doing and representing the steel industry in Canada, in particular the fabrication industry, these are the folks that engineer our infrastructure, buy steel and turn them into arenas, hospitals, schools, bridges, what have you, any structure in Canada. But I have a national membership, so I have from coast to coast a lot of folks in BC whose interests I have to balance with the members in Quebec, and many national leaders will tell you just how difficult that is. But in fact, I've been very successful in being able to do that, and really getting down to the kernel of what is the shared interest of everybody in this community. So the shared interests for us are obviously, there's an affordability crisis. This is something that every politician will tell you running for any level of office. The people are really anxious about, their paycheck going far enough. Something that all of us, I think, regardless of what we earn, we all feel, ourselves. But affordability would be a big one. Community safety as well here in this the city. Housing, that really that's a part of getting into affordability also, and really creating the type of investment conditions here in Hamilton that brings people and brings investment and economic vitality back to this city. Talking about what the future is going to be like for our kids and whether they're going to have the opportunities here. Are they going to be able to afford a house here? Are they going to be able to be employed here, regardless of where they've gone for university or college or what have you? Will they be able to continue to live in this great community if this is what they want to do? So those are the things that I think that pretty much 98% of Hamiltonians will agree with. And so then you look at again, the need for great leadership in this community, and it starts with listening, and it's really about also providing a vision, and that's just not here at this moment. And people want to believe in something. They want to be optimistic again about their communities, and they want to rally around somebody who will provide them with that vision.
We'll dig deeper into some of these topics that you mentioned because they deserve further conversation. The current political landscape with Canada versus U.S., some might bring up that you were born in the States.
Yeah.
You were born in New York, near Syracuse, right?
Yeah, north of Syracuse.
And they might say, he's not a real Canadian, even though you are dual citizen. Do you think that's going to be an election issue at all?
Well, I mean, sure, if somebody's trying to find something,
right.
Maybe that's an easy one, especially in this environment. But yeah, I was born in Oswego, New York, on Lake Ontario. So, I've always considered myself a Lake Ontario boy. Spent a lot of time, swimming and really, like I said, growing up in that area. When I was 12, my mother got remarried to my stepdad, who is a retired teacher in London at Beale Secondary. And so we moved to London when I was 12 and went to high school there. Went to Waterloo, which is where I met my wife, who's from Hamilton. Mm-hmm. She's the reason why we're here. After Waterloo, I did go back to the States, did law school at the College of William and Mary in Virginia. We ultimately spent 9 years living in Virginia. I was a lawyer in Washington, D.C., and so we lived in Northern Virginia. And that was all great, but it was when you start to have kids and a family, you start to really see the value of being surrounded by family and friends and all that. And also got to a point where I knew that the law career was not a sustainable career path for me, and also started to think, the things that are happening down here in the U.S., it's getting crazy. And this was in 2009. And that's where I really, really realized I think I'm more Canadian in my value set. Right. And so we decided, well, if we're going to switch careers, let's take this opportunity to also switch countries. And that's where my in-laws, who are on the East Mountain, said, you can live with us while you figure it out. And, I unexpectedly fell in love with this town and encouraged my wife to also see this as a good place to raise a family and plant our flag and build our careers. And we've been able to do that. And so I would say that, especially since, I never really thought of there being a conflict of interest between, our two countries. I've been straddling both sides of the border for my entire entire life. And it wasn't until 2016 where that obviously became the case, in particular when tariffs were levied against Canadian steel the first time around. And I would say since then, there's been no greater and no more enthusiastic participant of Team Canada than me. And I think part of that is the passion of the converted. Part of that is just the credibility in being able to go. I speak to a lot of American audiences, either in the Chamber of Commerce world or within associations within the steel industry. And I think that I have a great amount of credibility as a result of, my background. And so, I've kind of made that my mission to advocate for Canada and be a proselytizer for, the NAFTA and CUSMA and the arrangements between our two countries, the decades and decades of, centuries of friendship and, and economic cooperation, but the decades in particular under NAFTA and now CUSMA as well, and really helping the Americans see just how important Canada is to them. And we know it. Everybody knows it. It's like this one-way mirror between our two countries. But I've used every opportunity I can to shine a light on the benefits that Canada brings, both economically and as a stable neighbor. Which they take for granted. But there's a price. Of that stability, and the Americans unfortunately do not see that, and it's So I admit I've had a lot of internal conflict as a result of this as well. The country of my birth is strange to me, is going in a direction that I just never foresaw, but I am so happy to be living here in Canada.
The relationship between the two countries is forever changed.
Yeah.
Some would say for the worse. Others would see opportunity in the global marketplace. What do you make of the now strained relationship, and can we get back to where we once were?
I think that would be ideal for sure. And I look in my industry in particular, a lot of my members have done a really good job of building projects in the United States because they just don't have the domestic capacity. So we've helped fill a void there, and we've done a really good job at that. And as a result of what they've done, the price of projects in the U.S. has gone up, and the business environment has really shattered, and I think that's led to what we will see as being a real recession. So I want to get back to that point because that's good for us and good for the Americans. But who knows how long that is going to take? And I think that you look at the flip side of every challenge, and our opportunity here in Canada is to be more self-reliant. We are, as a result of decades of free trade, more north-south oriented in our economies. I've got a lot of members in BC who do work in, the Pacific Northwest, a lot of members in, the Central that do work in the Midwest, and here in Ontario we do work in Northeast and in Quebec, and so on and so forth. But we have this incredible opportunity to do more of the work here in Canada, gain more market share of work here in Canada. You would be surprised to know that the Canadian steel producers only have something like 35% of the domestic market share of steel, which is absolutely ridiculous when you look at other countries. In the U.S., it's about 85%. In Europe, it's about 80%. So we have a long way to go in that regard. So there's an incredible opportunity for the steel producers in particular to meet our domestic needs. And then, we're also fighting a lot of incursions of foreign firms coming in and building our bridges. And it's coming at a great risk to, these projects. The safety of these projects is really coming into question. The cost overruns are really coming into question as well, and becoming a major issue. Right. So we have an opportunity to say, look, if you can invest in Canadian fabricators and Canadian steel, that money is going to circulate in our economy far more than if you go overseas. And so, the way we've done procurement in this country, whether it be federal government, provincial government, or the municipalities, we've always dived to the lowest bottom line. But the lowest bottom line, the cheapest bid is always going to be the most fraught. And you're going to end up paying a huge price to that. And I think that taxpayers, especially right right now understand this and want that money to stay in our own economies. Because if you don't have a healthy economic base in this country, you're not going to have a healthy taxpayer base or a healthy ratepayer base when it comes to, like Ontario Hydro or these other companies that are using far too much overseas steel. So these are, opportunities, I think, for this country. There's a type of steel that we don't make here in this country. It's an I-beam. You think of your typical skeletal structure, one of the most important shapes to any particular building. We don't make that here in Canada. So there's an opportunity to say, well, should we be making this here in Canada? Because again, it's a matter of self-reliance and sovereignty. And I think there's a good case for doing that. And as mayor, I would make that case that Hamilton is the best town to be building a new steel mill.
You were once quoted as saying, quote, "I'm not a politician, I'm a leader drawn to vacuums in leadership."
Yeah.
Does that mean you're going to bring a more business-like approach to City Hall if you are elected mayor?
I think that's needed for sure. Absolutely for sure. I mean, I'm not one of those fetishists who say, we need to run it like a business, because it's the reality is it's not. We're not a for-profit business, thank goodness, right? This is a not-for-profit entity. And so, but all of those skills that are required in running successfly an organization are required even more so in our local government. So certainly what I've been, thinking, and I'm not a politician, though I guess, running for a political office makes one by default. So fine. I guess I am. And I've always been very political, right? So, but I think skilled in that regard, but proud not to call myself a politician. But what you would see me and how I'm looking at this position is, this is the mayor is the chair of the board of directors of the corporation of the city of Hamilton. And in that regard, you've got to obviously make sure that you hire well and you have the right leadership in place, your CEO on down through the organization, and that everybody understands their role, and there's, accountability through the ranks, and that, people are really being mindful of where our taxpayer dollars are being spent. I think that's very, very important, and we need to go through every single, line item to make sure that that is the case. And we need to go through every single job description and make sure that that is the case, that this job is necessary and is being filled by the exact perfect person for that job. So that's really important. On the flip side, as the board chair, the people that I really need to make sure that I have a great relationship with are those 15 councillors that are my fellow directors, and we got to make sure that we're going in the right direction, and it also making sure that we address the culture of the organization. It is really toxic right now. And how can taxpayers trust that their dollars are being spent wisely in this type of environment? And that starts at the very top. And obviously, I will set the tone as mayor of the city of Hamilton. I'll ensure that, we're operating as a cohesive and coherent body as the board of directors. We're not going to get unanimity around every single issue, but we will have respect for each other and for the job that we're doing. And we will be taking it seriously, and everything will flow from there. But again, taxpayers, how can they expect us to meet all of the various challenges that this city is facing if you don't have that core correct, which is, again, a thriving city of Hamilton that is a good workplace for people and is attracting the best and the brightest. We have so many amazing people in the city, working in the city right now, living in the city, who want to work for the city, but who have found work in other communities, whether it be in Niagara or Peel or Burlington or what have you, but all of whom come home to Hamilton each and every night and wish that they could contribute to their communities. And so there's a lot to do in the organization, and that's exactly the lens that I will be bringing.
I think the city of Hamilton is the number one employer in terms of size in Hamilton. Are there too many employees within the city of Hamilton?
Well, I think that there probably are. It seems that over the last number of years, if there's an issue, you just throw money at it and hire more people, right? I think people businesses especially know that they haven't been able to add as many people as they would like. You got to be really, really strategic about this, right? On the other hand, citizens don't want their services cut either, right? You see that with arenas that make it on the chopping block and then all of a sudden get pulled back, right? Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a balance there that leadership has to achieve. But I think as well, the big thing is because the city of Hamilton is not an ideal work environment, we're not getting the best of all the people that we have here in the city as well. Many of them are checked out for various reasons. And if we can get people most engaged and feel, like they're delivering value in if you love your job, you're always... It's not
going to feel like a job number one.
So, and I think that's what we need to get back to, and people will see a huge boost in productivity as a result.
All right, I have a hit list of some big issues in Hamilton.
Okay.
First and foremost, might not be at the top of the list, but certainly this time of the year it is, bad roads. So many potholes. Our roads need more than a facelift. What's your plan?
We need to fix the damn roads. That was the plan the last time around. I mean, that was one of our slogans. Yeah. Obviously, nothing has changed. Things have only gotten worse over the last 4 years. We really need to fix the roads. I always pointed to, there was an auditor's report Charles Brown issued a number of years ago that showed all the ways in which we were deficient as a city in paving our roads and the contracting process and all of that. So I always thought, when there's something there, go to the auditor's report because the work has already been done and is already laid out in front of you. But yeah, that's absolutely a top priority.
Okay. Property taxes are too high. So we want to spend money to fix roads, but we don't want to put that on the back of taxpayers. So how do you do both?
It's the value for money that we've been talking about, right? Making sure that people, again, I cannot promise that we're going to be lowering taxes. That's just not possible with the city that we have, the infrastructure deficit that we have. But we will be focusing on providing greater value for your taxpayer dollars. And again, that starts with completely overhauling the culture in the city and making sure you got the best and the brightest working for you and the right people in every single job.
If elected mayor, how long would that take? Righting the ship, removing the toxicity?
This is going to take, you can remove the toxicity pretty quickly, right? Again, cut out the source and at the very top, and that will change almost immediately and cascade down through the organization. But yeah, this is a really long-term effort. No one person can do this. I'm not promising that either, right? This is a all hands on deck moment for Hamilton, for councilors, for people who work in the city, for leaders in all of the various leadership organizations that exist in Hamilton. The great thing that the mayor can rely upon is these hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are all motivated to do what's right by our city and the taxpayers that fund our efforts. So but it's going to take a long-term effort, and it's constant as well. You never take your eye off the ball of culture within an organization or making sure that you have the right strategy or anything like that. So it is a never-ending job.
Houselessness and affordability of homes. How do you plan to change that, or at least move the narrative to something that's a lot more positive?
Yeah, well, we got to build more homes. That's for sure. I think that supporting the not-for-profit providers in particular that have stepped up, the Hamilton is Home Coalition. They have been absolutely amazing in the work that they're doing and filling that gap. So supporting them, making sure that all levels of government are investing as well. Part of the problem is the municipalities have been left with all of this downloaded from the federal government and then to the provincial government as well, and we're now feeling the effects of it. So we've got to have good and durable relationships with the higher tiers of government, but also again to bring all of the experts in this community around that, the home builders as well. They have a role to play also. We're hearing far too much red tape at City Hall that's getting in the way, that's costing us as well. New units, there's a certain amount of cost that's already embedded in that as a result of all the regulatory hurdles that they have to go through. So it's a full suite of things that need to be done to address this particular issue. But one of the major things that's happened, obviously, over the last little bit is the Barton Tiffany fiasco.
Right.
Like in that regard, you've got a certain amount of number of people that are homeless in this community. The thing about Hamilton is we can really wrap our arms around this, and we can identify them. We pretty much have them on a list, right? And the names of those that are itinerant or functionally homelessness. And so, we put in place a process to house a certain number of them, and which is really important. I firmly believe in that. I supported the HATS project in the first campaign, and these are people who are stepping up, providing a Made in Hamilton solution that is, for some reason, still hasn't gained any traction. They're still looking for support from City Hall. They have the ability to house, I think, at least 50 people, and with plans for more. Like, there's a scalability to this particular project. And then you look at what happened and the waste that was spent on the Barton Tiffany project, on overseas components, and it ended up costing $5 million more than originally budgeted. How many more people could we have housed for that amount, right? So you chip away at it with supporting every single project that's out there, in every single proposal, and that through that you start to make progress. I always used to say that our plan for homelessness, addressing that issue, is to actually try. We haven't adequately tried. We're not pulling together all the resources that exist in this community around this particular issue.
Burlington is in the process of potentially removing development charges on homes. Is that something you would follow suit, or at least investigate to see if it's worthy or not?
Well, I think we have to look at it for sure. I know that there's a lot of pushback coming in Burlington. It's a thorny issue. One of the things that or the reason why some of these communities are going down this road is obviously because of the struggles that the development community are feeling at this point in time, but also because they were relying on promises from the provincial government and the federal government to fill that gap. So I would certainly not do that in a way that would diminish our reserves. In fact, I don't know if we have any more reserves left, so we can't even really do this if we wanted to, but would only be doing this if the province and the federal government stepped up in the way that they promised they would.
Still with housing, urban boundary expansion. It was a bigger issue, I think, the last time around, maybe even 2 elections ago. Where do you stand on that? We need to build homes. Should we be building them, further out as opposed to up?
We need to be building homes. I firmly believe in intensification, especially in an old city like this. That's how you're going to get greater, return on your infrastructure investments, for sure. But when it comes to urban boundary expansion, I mean, the game has changed over the last 4 years, and the deck has been stacked in the favor of the developers. The OLT is ruling in their favor almost unanimously, and we're spending millions of dollars defending that, millions of dollars that we don't have as a community defending this. And so in part of it is we're actually we're making a legal defense that is contrary to the actual reports that came down from the planners within the city of Hamilton that supported a gentle expansion of the urban boundary, because we want to have control over this process, not put it in the hands of the OLT, and not be spending millions of dollars defending something that is indefensible.
Public transit has taken a lot of heat in Hamilton. How would you improve public transit?
Well, so the big plan is
We're going to knock on wood here, the LRT.
I mean, that's obviously the foundation of the future transit system for Hamilton. We are too far down the line on that project, and it cannot be canceled. We have to, I can't believe, though, 10 years later, we're still talking about this, right? Like, what has happened? Why is nothing happening? Obviously, Metrolinx is not getting pressure from our community, not getting pressure from the mayor's office to finally get this thing done. So shovels haven't gone in the ground, but a lot of the underground work has happened, stuff that is not visual to everybody. And of course, we know all the properties that have been bought by Metrolinx, and we know as well that we absolutely have an infrastructure deficit, and a huge portion of this project is to transform the entire corridor under King Street. And so that need is more necessary than ever. You're talking about the roads. You're talking about, how many broken water mains have we had in the last couple of months, right? That's just below the surface. That's another issue that has to be addressed. And this project will do that and then provide, of course, an incredible transit corridor, state-of-the-art corridor, and spur further development. You don't have to go further than Waterloo to see where this has worked well, and been executed well as well. I have my concerns about what Metrolinx has done in Eglinton and in some of the other corridors. We know what not to do from multiple reports from the City of Ottawa as well, and we have a best practice in terms of what happened in Waterloo. So I'm still really supportive of this project. Because there's just no going back.
The cost differential between when it was first announced and then canceled and then re-announced for Hamilton, that cost is definitely going to go up, right, in terms of today's dollars versus yesterday's dollars. If the province or the feds say, hey, we need a little more cash from the city of Hamilton, would you be willing to dip into the coffers if there is enough?
Well, I mean, I guess it
depends on what the number is.
That's an entirely different situation. Right now, we're operating under the assumption that they're carrying the full cost, regardless of what that's going to be. We don't know what the current cost will be. Obviously, that's something that we're going to have to deal with. But yeah, we don't have the money to be able to contribute to that, unfortunately.
Your 2 cents on the Niagara amalgamation issue. It's a hot topic in places like St. Catharines and Niagara Falls. And what do you make of it?
I always say, and I know that this is not shared by everybody in every community in Hamilton, but I think amalgamation was the best thing that happened to Hamilton. I think it simplified things, and we complain about how hard it is to get things done now. I can't imagine if you added another tier of government. I do look at the number of politicians in Niagara. I don't know what the range in terms of pay is, but I think that they could, certainly save a lot of money by being represented by many, many fewer people, and take out a tier of government that I think is, it's regional government. It's not closest to the people. It's probably the most forgotten level of government. And, like I said, I think it's the best thing that happened to us here in Hamilton. And I know some will disagree, but it takes time, right? Like within 2 generations, there will be none of this, hangover from our previous amalgamation. Already we see it. A lot of people have now live in the city that did not live here through amalgamation, and they might say they're from Waterdown or Dundas or Stony Creek, but they pay their taxes to the city of Hamilton. I think all of them share the desire to have a vibrant core that is a place where everybody can convene whenever they want to, whether they're coming to a show, restaurant, celebrating a birthday, etc.
We're going to end with some fun stuff. But before that, what do we need more of in this city? What do we need less of in Hamilton?
Well, we need more leadership. That's for damn sure. So I would say, number one, it's that. And we need more coordination among the leaders in this community. There, as I said, there's a lot of incredible people doing incredible work here. There's a lot of capacity in the city, whether it be around social services, whether it be around economic development. They just need greater support from the mayor's office and from City Hall, and greater coordination to make sure that we're all really, really coordinated. What do we need less of? I think, we need fewer potholes. That's for damn sure as well.
Yes, please.
I would say divisiveness, and I think that's a function of the first part of my answer.
Yeah.
If we can really bring people together, we're not taking pot shots at each other. That's just such wasted energy. Let's focus on what we can accomplish in the city together.
All right, speed round / fun stuff.
Okay.
Getting to know Keanin Loomis a little bit more. Your most listened to song on your playlist right now. What's at the top of the chart?
Oh, I just I came across a song called Stampede by I have to go to.
You got to look for it now.
Yeah. Where is my phone? It's in my jacket. So I like new music.
Okay.
I'm always looking for new songs. I mean, I love the classics. I grew up,
Sure.
in the 70s and 80s on so many of those classics, and I love being able to share these now with my kids and seeing songs that I've listened to forever now show up on their playlist.
Right.
That's really, really cool. But I also love discovering new music. So I have very, very eclectic tastes.
Okay.
And every year I create a new playlist. So, I started my 2026 playlist. It's now 70 songs or so.
Okay.
And these are all new songs. And so, some of them will get played more than others, but
nice. All right.
and I'm also starting to bring together a campaign playlist. So I love making playlists.
Okay, good. Your favorite local restaurant?
Well, there's so many really good ones.
There are a lot of good ones.
Yeah, I would say, I still go back to, it's Bardot now, but Bread Bar was kind of the OG for me and my family. And we lived pretty close to Bread Bar. In fact, we could smell the aroma.
Just lure you over.
I mean, it was just amazing. And so I still have such a positive association with Bread Bar. I love, in the East End, Bernie's Tavern. There's just some good, good joints. Good. I love a good dive bar as well. And Hamilton has all kinds of great ones too. So I love spending time at Capitol Bar in the East End also.
Nice.
So yeah.
It's the people that work at these places too that really make it so amazing.
Yeah.
Your go-to homemade meal. You're at home, wife, kids are busy, you're cooking something. What's your go-to meal?
I think it would be tacos.
Nice.
I'm really good at that one.
Yep. Hard shell or soft?
The guacamole. Well, you do a variety, right?
You got it. Yeah.
You throw a couple hard shells in the oven. It depends on what the base is, right? If it's like a shredded pork, you want the hard shell, because it's already.
I'm feeling it. I like
but
it.
if it's we do minced chicken, then a burrito would be good. But
Nice.
a variety of hot sauces, guacamole, that sort of thing.
Okay, so when's dinner?
It's Taco Tuesday, I think.
There you go. Best thing that you've seen on TV recently?
Okay, we're in the middle of Severance right now. Second season.
Okay.
I was wowed by the first season.
Yes.
Second season's getting a little weirder.
It's getting crazy. Yes, it's getting crazy.
But I love it. Pluribus was
same kind of crazy.
Same kind of crazy.
Different premise.
So that was one that we just went through. I also love period dramas. So
you're watching the Downton Abbeys and
for sure.
Okay.
Gilded Age. They're always really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm feeling you there. Lastly, your one guilty pleasure.
I love beer. Yeah.
Okay.
And the great thing is Hamilton has
it's got some good ones.
It's got some great breweries.
Do you have a favorite one right now, or one that you've discovered recently?
So it's on the other side of the city for me, but Clifford is one of my faves. But there's all kinds of good ones in my area of the city as well. But Collective Arts is also a fave. We've had a lot of events there as well. It's a great space. So in the food that also goes with it, the live entertainment. Yeah. I love the breweries as spaces that they've also really well programmed to meet the needs of their customer base.
Well, I wish you nothing but the best on the campaign trail. Thanks for stopping in. I'm sure we'll have you on the podcast before the municipal election on October 26th.
Thanks, Rick. Would love that.
That is Keanin Loomis, and that is a wrap for the Newsmakers podcast. A big thank you to the all-star cast behind the scenes. If you like today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment. You can catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.